Sex is defined as a physical, biological, or legal classification, whereas gender is a mental or psychological aspect of one's identity. Gender is a social construct made of roles, behaviors, and other attributes generally accepted and considered quote-unquote appropriate for males or females, resulting in different divisions in gender from culture to culture. In the West, gender is generally thought of as a binary based on sex, although many other cultures acknowledge other genders. For example, Two-Spirit is a modern umbrella term used by many indigenous First Nation peoples to describe gender-variant individuals within their communities. It is a spiritual role, and Two-Spirit individuals are highly respected and considered to have a certain level of wisdom that comes from their identity. This greatly differed from the stern Christian beliefs brought to North America by Europeans, and thus Two-Spirit individuals suffered greatly, not only for their race, but also for their gender identities. Many do not experience a difference between gender and sex for their gender identity, which makes it difficult to understand the difference for many. These are both, to a degree, human constructs, and to a degree are not perfect. The science of sex is not entirely in a male or female binary. Intersex individuals are born with sexual anatomy, reproductive organs, and/or chromosome patterns that do not fit the typical definition of male or female. This may be apparent at birth or become so later in life. Intersex status is not related to sexual orientation or gender identity. Intersex individuals are only affected biologically.
1 in 2,000 kids is born with genitals that you can't tell right at birth if the child is male or female. And really tragically and horribly, what happens is, out of a great deal of fear and prejudice, a scalpel is raised in order to normalize the genitals and to force a gender identity on a child.
Transgender people, however, although not saying that an intersex person could not also be trans, identify with a gender that is not the same sex that they were assigned at birth. The common examples people are more commonly aware of are trans people that identify with F to M or M to F, meaning female to male or male to female, respectively. Although many seem to consider the term transgender to only equate to trans male or trans female, it is also a blanket term that covers non-binary genders. Non-binary genders, or genderqueer genders, are gender identities that don't fit within the binary of male and female. Here are examples of non-binary genders. Many criticize the need for labels and self-labeling, these comments often being directed towards the LGBT community. But it is important to remember that to someone that experiences sexuality and/or gender different from the cultural norms and expectations, it can be very helpful to find a label that most closely describes your experiences, and by extension, it is often essential for LGBT people to be able to find communities of people that identify the same as them, especially if they are unable to access support or even acceptance from their family, friends, school, work, etc. Gender expression is a separate concept than gender identity, although some may prefer to dress in a way that is considered quote-unquote appropriate for their gender. Gender expression may be very difficult for non-binary people, especially as the typical androgynous style is often very masculine. The way a person dresses, whether they wear makeup or not, does not validate or invalidate a person's gender identity. Another criticism often voiced against the LGBT community is the use of the term cisgender, referring to people that feel that the sexual anatomy they were born with and the gender assigned to them at birth fits with their gender identity. Some don't understand the point of this word's existence, but it is meant to be complementary to transgender and non-binary identities. Therefore, it avoids enforcing the existence of normative gender identities in the same way straight is used to not enforce heteronormativity. Language and its subtleties has a profound effect on everyone, transgender and cisgender people. It is always important to use people's preferred pronouns. If you do not know them, you can always ask. Although many people find it awkward to ask for someone's pronouns, it is always preferred above making assumptions about someone's gender based on their appearance. Here is a chart of traditional pronouns and invented pronouns. Misgendering is the term for not using the correct pronouns. Depending on the individual, they might be more or less forgiving if you misgender them, because accidents can happen. However, some choose to misgender others on purpose, whether to make them upset, because they're upset with them, or to out them, etc. This could result in making the person angry, sad, but most importantly, depending on the situation, it could put them in danger. Anti-LGBT violence impacts trans people disproportionately, and trans people are more likely to be subject to police violence, sexual violence, job discrimination, high rates of poverty, which leads to further vulnerability to violence, and the chances increase if that trans person is also a person of color. However, it is not only physical violence that can greatly impact trans people. Transgender people who are bullied, rejected, or discriminated against have a higher rate of suicide attempts.